Got another one here from DMV fan 123. DMV fan 123 writes, Sheriff plus Darashaw equals O-line rebuilt. That is a realistic possibility. We've heard people talk about Christian Darashaw as a guy, or Darrisaw, excuse me, as a guy that could be available at 19, and Washington could be interested at 19. I continue to contend that Washington isn't as hell-bent on upgrading the offensive line as many of you and a lot of the pundits out there believe. If you're not watching this team on a week-by-week basis and really getting into the intricacies of what they've done to this roster over the last year since Ron has gotten here, then you wouldn't know. But when you just look at the roster, if you're looking at it on paper and you see Cornelius Lucas or Jaron Christian as the starter, you say, okay, they need an upgrade at left tackle. I don't think that they believe that that is a big need that they have to address at 19. Now, again, if Christian Darrisaw is the best player available at 19, they may take him. But I feel like they want to go in a different direction than offensive line because I don't think they view it as the biggest need as of right now. I think they like what they got out of Cornelius Lucas. I think they want to continue to work with him. I think they feel like, Jaron Christian still has something to offer. That's depth right there, if nothing else. You've got everywhere else on the offensive line is kind of set, with the exception of, left guard. And again, we keep talking about the left tackle position as if they didn't draft Sadiq Charles last year. Again, I don't know if they view him strictly as a guard now. Like, he had his opportunity at tackle. They've moved on. He's now a left guard. That could be a realistic possibility, but if they drafted the kid to be a left tackle, I still think they want to give him a chance to be a left tackle. So I don't see them investing in a left tackle. That's just my personal belief. I could be wrong, but I still think they want to go to camp with Sadiq Charles having an opportunity to compete at left tackle. Worst case scenario, because as we saw last year with Masco and company, they're going to move players around to try to figure out what pieces fit best where. I wouldn't be shocked if Sadiq Charles gets an opportunity at left tackle. They realize, not really what we're looking for. They go back to either Christian or Lucas and then slide him to left guard. Remember, Wes Schweitzer played a hell of a left guard for us last year. So I feel confident if they say, hey, Wes is the best we got at left guard. I'm cool with that. But if they say, hey, we want to try the young fella, he's much more athletically gifted, feel like he gives us a bit of athleticism and a boost and a nasty streak in the run game, even though Wes gave us a nasty streak in the run game, I'd be all for it. That would make me feel even more confident in the offensive line, knowing that if somebody goes down on the interior, I got Wes Schweitzer backing up either Sheriff or Sadiq Charles. So I don't think the offense, I said all of that to say this. If they are able to bring Sheriff back, and I think they will, I don't think that they feel like this offensive line is in peril and that it must be repaired and it must be upgraded. I think they are willing to try out the pieces that they have and kind of pour in their resources elsewhere. That's how I feel personally, but we'll see what happens. Kevin the PRF. Thank you for the super chat, my man Kev. Greatly appreciate you, who writes, I expect for the Washington football team to go all in on receiver and free agency, but what do you think of Marcus Williams? Too much of a safety log jam cap-wise? I don't think that they're going, and I've said this already, we talked about this last week in particular, that I just can't see Washington divulging what it's going to take to add another piece to a secondary that they've already spent a bunch of money and have a bunch of money tied up in. You paid, last year you paid Kendall Fuller. 2 years or 2 years before that, you paid Landon Collins. Or was it 1 year before that? I think it was 2 years before that you paid Landon Collins. And now, I think it was 1 year before that. So Collins, then Kendall Fuller, and now you might have to pay Ronald Darby some money. I just don't see them investing a lot of money into another safety. They've already got money tied up into one safety. Now you're investing into another safety. You just invested in a corner. Now you got to invest in another corner if you don't go young at that position. I just don't see them investing what it's going to take to get a young safety like Marcus Williams on the free agent market. And I talked about this last week with him. You're looking at $13 million per year for a guy like Marcus Williams. Now, again, these are all projections by SportRack. However, with the cap being reduced, those numbers could come down. But it's not going to come down to $9 million per year, okay? If that number comes down, maybe it comes down to 11. That's still more money than you're really looking to invest in the position. Having already paid Kendall Fuller 10 a year, Landon Collins what's 15, 16 a year, I think it was 14, something like that. And then if you bring back Darby, he's probably going to cost you every bit of 10, 11, 12 a year. I just don't see them investing in another secondary member when they feel like they can find some cheap young labor like they did last year in the draft with Cameron Curl. You know, if you believe in your evaluators, I don't think you go to that well in free agency. You got other positions that you really need to attack aggressively in free agency, like wide receiver, as you mentioned. And I think that's where they're going to focus all of their energy early on in the process. I expect Washington to go after a wide receiver fast and furious early. We're going to know about the receiver that they're going to sign prior to the actual free agency first day of the new league year getting underway. You know, that tampering period is the 15th through the 17th, and the 17th is actually the day that guys can put ink to paper. We're going to know about Washington's intent to sign said wide receiver. I believe that guy's going to ultimately be Curtis Samuel. Never, ever trust a man with two first names. And I think that we're going to know that Curtis Samuel is going to be a Washington football team member by the 15th, that Monday. I really do believe that. You know, if not Monday, definitely Tuesday, we're going to know something about the wide receiver position. I don't think this is going to be a situation where a lot of big names are gone and Washington still hasn't signed somebody. I think we're going to be in on a big name free agent wide receiver early, and I wouldn't be shocked if they doubled up and got them, and that wouldn't come early. That would be a little bit later. That would come once all of the high-priced guys are gone, and then you get to some of your bargain basement deals on the second week of free agency. That's when you'll start to hear a name like a John Ross come off the board, and I think that could be a name that maybe interests Washington as well, because if nothing else, they definitely are looking to add speed, and I think that's why Curtis Samuel is going to be the first guy on their list more likely than not. They may try to go after Allen Robinson. I don't see the Bears letting him go. I'm listening to their GM Ryan Pace speak, and it doesn't sound like they're willing to just allow Allen Robinson to walk in test free agency. So sounds like if they don't reach a long-term deal with him, they're going to slap the franchise tag on him. And so I think he'll be one of those guys that comes off of the board. And teams that were interested in Allen Robinson will have to look elsewhere. And that's when they start turning their attention to Chris Godwin, who I think is going to get the franchise tag in Tampa. So then you turn your attention to Juju Smith-Schuster, and that's when you start the bidding there. And I think Washington's just going to bypass all of that and go straight for Curtis Samuel. So we'll see what happens there. But Marcus Williams, I don't think they want to spend the kind of money that it's going to take to bring him to Washington. But we will see, obviously.